100 Kenyan evangelical pastors have written an open letter asking the president not to talk about the gay agenda.
We do not want him to come and talk on homosexuality in Kenya or push us to accepting that, which is against our faith and our culture.
Mark Kariuki is the key architect of that letter. He leads an alliance representing 38,000 churches and 10 million Kenyan Christians. He welcomes the president's visit, but says leave the gay talk in America.
Let him talk about development, let him talk about cooperation, let him talk about the long-time relationship Kenya has had with America, but about our beliefs and culture, keep off.
Obama has used previous trips to Africa to urge governments to respect gay rights. Kariuki says the open letter is a warning to the president.
The family is the strength of a nation. If the family is destroyed, then the nation is destroyed. So we don't want to open doors for our nation to be destroyed.
Pro-family activists took to the streets of Nairobi this month, urging the president to avoid the subject when he visits.
Since Obama has a Kenyan descent, I think he should be more familiar with our culture.
Homosexuality is illegal in Kenya and 37 other African countries. In fact, Kenya's penal code says any individual who has carnal knowledge of any person against the order of nature can face 14 years jail time. Bishop Kariuki says he'll fight to keep homosexuality a crime in Kenya.
Because it is an abomination to God.
Top Kenyan politicians are also weighing in. The country's deputy president is quoted saying, "God did not create man and woman so that men would marry men and women marry women." Another lawmaker warned, "We shall tell him to shut up and go home if he talked about gay rights." After last month's U.S. Supreme Court ruling legalizing gay marriage in America, one politician here said allowing such a thing in her country would open, quote, "floodgates of evil," synonymous with the biblical Sodom and Gomorrah. Meanwhile, Bishop Kariuki says the president is destroying America with his support for gay marriage.
I believe that with all my heart. With that agenda, he's ruining America, because America has been known as a Christian nation. It has been known as a nation that has sent missionaries out. Now it is a different nation altogether, because it's an agenda against God.
A huge part of the agenda, of course, is the agenda to sexualize our children, to change the family. And of course, Obama took that agenda to Kenya, and the Kenyan president was having none of it. Let's play that clip of what the Kenyan president said to Obama.
Value for families. These are things that we share. But there are some things that we must admit we don't share. Our culture, our societies don't accept. It's very difficult for us to be able to impose on people that which they themselves do not accept. This is why I repeatedly say that for Kenyans today, the issue of gay rights is really a non-issue.
Yeah, it's not like we have solved all of those problems that he mentioned. Those are all things that are glaring problems, things that government could help, in most cases, by getting out of the way. Instead, what they're trying to do, in the words of the Kenyan president that you just heard, is impose on people what they do not accept. And of course, one of the ways that they do this primarily is through the schools. This is what the schools were designed for. If you go back and you look at the writings of Horace Mann and others, you'll see that that was what they wanted to create the schools for. They realized that their socialist experiments were not succeeding in the mid-1800s, and they said, well, the problem is that we need to get to the children at an early age. Every dictator has said this throughout history, going all the way back to Plato's Republic, where he basically wanted to destroy the family so that the only loyalty would be to the government. That would be the way they would control the people. They would not even know who their parents were. Perhaps we're pretty close to that today. When we send our children away to a government institution and have them spend most of their day there, do they really know who their parents are? Are they more connected to their peers than to their parents? Do they see the school and the government as the authority figures rather than their parents? Ask yourself that. You need to think about that in your personal life. I know it's a difficult thing. We have such a high tax burden. It has driven many people to have both parents, many families, both parents are working, even if you have a two-parent family. In many families, there's only one parent. It's extremely difficult. But I can tell you, if you can work with others, if you can find a way to take control of your children's education, to at least understand what is being taught to them, to know the teachers there, that you can't put a price tag on that. That is going to pay dividends in your life. And quite frankly, it's the only way you and your children and your grandchildren and their children are going to be free. Take a look at this story that was up on Infowars.com. Again, came out yesterday. At an anti-bullying conference, middle schoolers learn about lesbian sex from the people who are presenting it there. This is in a small town. It's less than 5,000 people, 4,690 people in a small Iowa town. Among the nearly 24 speakers who are supposedly going to be there about bullying, only one attendee, only two addressed bullying, said one attendee. The rest of them were selling this. That's why, that and other things like Common Core, that's why so many people are moving to homeschooling. There's an article from Common Watch talking about how in Virginia and other places, people are concerned that even the private schools, even the Catholic schools, are adopting Common Core because they want to teach to the test. Don't let them put that kind of pressure on you.
An anti-discrimination program focused on gender diversity is drawing outrage from some conservative groups. Correspondent Claudia Cowan takes a fair and balanced look.
I see a lot of hands.
Instead of the 3 R's, these elementary school kids in Oakland spent class time focusing on gender diversity and how they can choose to be a boy or a girl or both.
Gender identity is about in here. It's about what's up here and in here.
As part of a program said to combat bullying, Redwood Heights Elementary brought in Gender Spectrum, an activist group whose mission is to create more gender-sensitive environments for kids.
True or false? Animals have only 2 genders.
These 4th graders were told that in nature, things aren't always what they seem. Some dolphins have both boy and girl parts, and clownfish can switch genders. Gender Spectrum says that diversity applies to people, too.
People can be girls, feel like girls, they can feel like boys, they can feel like both, and they can even feel like, as I said, kind of like neither.
Critics say these lessons amount to indoctrination by activist groups.
Public schools are here to serve children and to educate children on behalf of the parents, not to cross the line and violate the rights of parents and families.
District officials say the topic of gender expression is part of a larger effort to ensure students feel welcome and safe.
Nobody's trying to influence the students to act in a specific way. We're just saying that if a student does exhibit these behaviors, that they should not be alienated, ostracized, or most of all, bullied because of it.
This school is taking a very extreme position in inculcating these children at a very young age with gender confusion as opposed to gender identity.
The school maintains most parents, teachers, and students had no problem with what was taught. But critics say there are not multiple genders, just boys and girls, and that this is the type of curriculum that could become commonplace throughout California if, as expected, pending legislation to teach transgender history to public school kids becomes law. In Oakland, Claudia Cowan, Fox.
Growing reaction now to a new push in a California elementary school. Along with learning their ABCs, 1st and 2nd graders are getting a 1-hour lesson on gender diversity. A California school has hired a gender coach to teach students that there's more than one way to be a boy or a girl.
Well, young kids, as young as 5, are getting a lesson about transgender issues when classes at Horace Mitchell Primary School in Maine were read the book, I Am Jazz, about a child with a boy's body but a girl's brain. Parents are upset that they were not informed about the lesson, and now one mom is saying that her 1st grader is asking if he is in fact transgender.
This is a psych warfare attack. White Privilege Conference workshop pushes grade school lessons about genderqueer, transgender folks and exchanging gender fluids. Lecturing elementary school age children, I'm not kidding, it's 5-year-olds, about gay, lesbian, and transgender issues. Holy Toledo. I'm 41 and I was reading this and learning things that 5-year-olds are learning. And then if you don't go along with it, you hate gay people.
An Oklahoma judge dismissed 3 felony child sexual abuse charges against a police official, despite forensic evidence proving that this cop did molest this child. Now, to give you some more details on this, and Jimmy, I'm sure you're going to jump in and rip this guy apart, Pittsburgh County Special District Judge Matthew Sheets dismissed the felony child sex charges against Martin Stites because the girl, now 4, was unable to describe in detail how she was molested.